So, yeah, everything's working. So, hello everyone. Welcome to World War Bricks. Hello, how are you? Welcome to the live Q&A as always on a Friday. So, we'll give it a few minutes now till we have some people coming in. Um, and we will get down to business. A few things we have to cover tonight or today. Shane O'Hull, how are you? Um, some things that have happened throughout the week. Been a very, very busy week in relation to collecting. So we are doing more work on the YouTube channel at the moment, and we're actually doing proper work, which is always good. How's everyone? Brian, how are you? Noah, how are you? What's the crack? Another Irish lad. For those of you that are tuning in from foreign, that doesn't actually mean have I crack. That just means are we having fun, or is there any news or any scale or something or stories? So don't worry about what the crack means. Hi John, postage in the post. Perfect Dutch sound. Um, I've had a lot of lads over the last week email me stuff and things like that. Andrew, how are things? Um, with stuff that's on the way. I mean, it's fantastic the support we're getting now at the minute. I believe Andrew is actually looking up some stuff for me as well. Porrick is looking up for some stuff for me at the moment as well. So I mean, the support that the channel is getting through the subscribers is brilliant. Stan, how are you? Podrick, well, buddy. Stan, your thing actually arrived today. I'm very, very impressed with it. You didn't have to send this. Thanks very much. Those of you that were asking before about these binoculars, they're actually Canons. They're 50s or 60s. They were belonged to my father. But Stan actually sent me a proper pair of 1940, yeah, dated World War II ones. I do actually know how to work the reticule on the inside. That's to judge distance. So basically, the quick way to deal with it, or when you get a pair of military binoculars, on older ones you will only see horizontal scale, shall we say. On the newer ones you will see a horizontal and a vertical, and that is for judging distance. And the long and the short of it pretty much is, so what you have to do is you judge something. The case is a 70s cheapo thing. I am not worried about the case. The binoculars though were fantastic, and I mean the optics in them is fantastic. Like, it just goes to show you the quality compared to the crap they're throwing out these days. Um, Quality on them is fantastic. Um, but sorry, getting back to the reticules. So what you need to do is you basically get something that is roughly on the same distance apart, and then you use your reticle to see how many mils, we'll say, depending on what the binoculars are, whether they're mils or degrees, between each line. So what we used to use was telegraph poles. Telegraph poles are normally 50 meters apart. So you put your center reticle on a pole, and then you count and see how many more mils you have. There's a mathematical equation then, and that roughly tells you what distance something is away. So, little fact for you guys. I'll probably I might do a video on it and show you actually how to do it properly. Uh, yeah, but look, I'm over the moon with them. You didn't have to send them. I mean, the stuff that I sent you was not being used, and it would have been it would have been wasted otherwise. So I mean, like, I prefer it went to somebody that actually got out of it. But they're fantastic. They will be used for displays, and when we go through horse racing, we can see how my GGs are doing. I don't go to horse racing. I'm just saying, that's something to look at. So, how's everyone doing anyway? How's your week been? It's been hectic here. Um, we I was getting stuff ready. I haven't them changed at the minute, but I was getting stuff ready to do mannequins on parade. So we have two uniforms coming up. We have one from Northern Ireland, up banner, Northern Ireland Troubles, whichever way you want to call it, and the other is a World War II one. So I hope you enjoy those. My wife actually can't believe I was parting with part of my bino collection. Well, I'm actually delighted I'm privileged that you parted with something from your Bino collection. I'm ecstatic about them. They were very good. Actually, I got a bit of a shock because I was cutting the lawn and postman arrived and went, "Here you go." So it was great. It was funny. I can set you up with my bookie if you need. Yeah, no. What was it? My father, Lord Mercy, used to say, "The only one wins is the bookies." My wife wishes I got rid of something of mine. Yeah, I think everyone's partners and other halves get mad when they see more stuff coming. I've been good. My Monster and World War Two family group has arrived this week, and I've got a few other bits. That's good, yeah. Um, I was actually in because things have started to open up here now and stuff. I managed to get to a few antique stores, and selection's been a bit bad, poor, because obviously they've been closed for the last year. So the selection of stuff items wasn't good, but I did come across one or two interesting items. There was one there with a set of medals, World War One medals. Not the trio; they only had two. Um, so I was interested in picking them up and maybe doing a bit of research on them to find out the guy that actually owned them. But with World War One medals can be hit and miss because an awful lot of the records were destroyed during the Blitz. Whereas it's easier to track down World War Two medals and things like that. Yeah, I found that the antique shops were a bit bare. Yeah, they're very bare at the minute. Um, those of you that are getting into the collecting world, um, in Ireland anyway, antique stores, thrift stores, second-hand shops, they're the best place to try and get military stuff. Uh, can be hit and miss with antique stores because sometimes they know what they're talking about, other times they don't have a bull's notion. Um, so yeah, it can be hit and miss. Um, what else did I find on my travels? That was about it, really. Uh, if you like, I could do some research for you. I have a subscription to a few ancestry sites. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't pick them up because they were. I won't say they were out of my realm, but are out of my area of expertise because um, I just they didn't flick it. I didn't have that spark. Whereas when you see something and you're going, bloody hell, I really like that. Um, yeah, so I don't know why I didn't really pick them up. Have you ever used White's auction? The odd time they have good stuff. I don't normally use auction sites. Uh, I should really. I like to see the stuff if you get me beforehand rather than buying. It's probably just the old school side of me. Um, yeah, I prefer to see something because then you can literally look at it and like with headgear and stuff like that or uniforms, you can see if the sweat marks, wear marks, things like that on it. Um, whereas I won't say all auction sites or all internet stores and stuff like that, but that seems to be where you get caught a lot with fakes, very good fakes and things like that. We're looking in Canada for the First World War. The government has digitalized all service files and are free to download. They include pay stubs, casualty reports, etc., and a lot of really good. Yeah, your the Canadian stuff and the American stuff is easy enough to find. Pardon me, or research because sorry, bit of water. There are other water. So this is not a subscription. There are other water manufacturers. Sorry, guys. Um, but an awful lot of finding Irish regiments and stuff, or information about Irish guys. Because literally straight after that you had the War of Independence. Then after that you had the Blitz, and an awful lot of the records got burnt and destroyed and stuff like that. How much? I see. How much were they being sold for? I think they were being sold for about 50, 60 euros, I think. But there was no ribbons on them. It was literally just the medals. So I mean, you would have had to. it was up to yourself if you wanted to add reproduction ribbons to them and stuff. But the ribbons or the medals were stamped and they were engraved. The medals were original. Um, but yeah, I think it was just a victory. Was it the King George medal and the victory medal? I don't think the star was there. My grandpa signed up at the start of World War One and was demobbed in 1919, and only spent 3 months in France, shot in the thigh and gassed 3 times. Well, that was a very interesting 3 months to have managed to do all that in 3 months. Not good for him, but yeah, that's very, very quick, shall we say, to get gassed and shot as well at the same times. Military Collectibles, hello, how are you? Um, in relation to the First World War, an awful lot of the Irish guys, when they came back, because you had the War of Independence going on, shall we say, the War of Independence going on, they literally just slid under the carpet, um, and just got on with their lives again. Just bought a pair to a guy who was in the Royal Horse Artillery and was hit by a bomb in Messines in 1917. Yeah, I mean the history of medals, I find quite interesting in the fact that you can, depending on whether you're lucky enough, whether the records have been destroyed and stuff like that. Um, they're very good. I did actually do a bit of research, which was quite funny, on the Royal Ulster Rifles, because I hope to portray them in a reenacting and stuff like that. There is actually a John Shanahan that served in the Royal Ulster Rifles, so I'm trying to find out a bit more about him. I buy medals for the story. Yeah, the medals for the story is interesting. Like every piece of equipment that I try to get, if it's named or if there's a serial number on it, I try and do a bit of research on it, um, just for my own self, to see if the guy survived. Um, and it's sad too, because like you have guys that specifically collect the widow's penny, um, and I think it's a fantastic thing to collect those widow's pennies, because those guys need to be remembered. And I mean, they made the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, it's that's why it's called the widow's penny. Is these guys didn't come home, and the only piece of memorial those families got was this big brass plate, because at that stage the bodies weren't brought home and they were buried in France. So, like the guys' families, mothers, fathers, wives, kids, excuse me, would have never seen those graves, and the only way that they had to grieve was over this little brass penny. I know someone who buys medals, researches them, then them on moves them on to the next medals. He enjoys the research. Yeah, exactly. That's it. I mean, an awful lot of guys do that. I'm sorry, I missed one. My great great uncle was the Irish Guards in World War One and was killed in action in the Somme. Another very interesting one. Uh, Roger Kipling's son. He was actually Irish Guards. They made a film about him. Your man from another one that I think was cast wrong, Harry Potter, because whenever I see him, I just think of Harry Potter. Played him in that film, My Boy Jack. Good film, very good film. Couple of Irish actors in it. Uh, he was it Mons or Luz? He passed. He was killed in. He was missing in action, and the family went through years of trying to find guys that had been there to actually find out with him. Um, yeah, it was a good film. Good movie. Just I don't. I won't say he spoils it for me. Lose. That was the battle he was killed in. Um, he survived, but he died in 55. Life cut short due to gas. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah. It was a good film. He just spoilt it a small bit for me, because just when I seen him, especially because he was wearing glasses as well, and that was a big part of the film. His eyesight wasn't the best, and he had been he wasn't accepted for the navy, which he initially wanted to try, and his father basically pulled the strings and got him a commission in the Irish Guards. I can remember when 1914, 1918 war medals were worthless and just collected for the scrap silver. Many were melted down long before they could be researched. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's what happens. You have estate sales and things like that, or people passing on, and military collectibles, military items just being scrapped. Um, I was chatting to a friend of mine actually there who I get bits and pieces off from the north, and we were talking about unusual items and stuff like that we've seen prop up. And he was actually talking to a builder that was involved in the demolishing of the Maze prison, the H blocks, and actually has a cell door from one of the H blocks. So, very unusual item. Got talking to an old boy at work. He served in the late 60s, was telling him about my collection, and that he said, wait there, goes out into his house and comes back with an L4 LMG mag and gives it to me. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's strange the things you come across. Um, I'll tell you a funny story. Somebody asked me there before about an unusual item, and I was going to get it out, but I can't find it. I have it around somewhere. I know I have it, and why I brought it home, I have no idea. Um, more, the more history, the better. Have a Russian VSR helmet from a fella who served in Chechnya. Have the water canteen too, with name, unit, and blood type uh, on it. Shame it was too late for the trousers. Okay. That's another nice thing to have. Do you know if there are any military affairs or markets in Ireland? There used to be in Dublin before COVID. There used to be one in Dublin every 2 months, every 3 months, or something like that. They had one. You do have military shows. It looks like at the moment the Cork military show is going to happen. That happens normally around August, September. So hopefully that will start off and go ahead. COVID, COVID. So hopefully that will start. But yeah, the unusual thing I found it actually. I know I have it. I just can't remember where I have it and how I managed to bring it back. I don't bloody know. But um, when I was overseas in Lebanon, we all know I've been to Lebanon. I was there in 2000, and the Israelis were withdrawing from what was known as the buffer zone, the ICR, the Israeli controlled area, and they were withdrawing back out of the Lebanese territory back into Israel. And we got sent forward to set up this new post called, I'm not going to mention the name of the post, but we got sent forward to take this new post over and build this new post. So we were there for a week living in tents. Guys from B Company, which I was attached to, and guys from C Company, who were the west of Ireland. Those companies were drawn from that area. So we got sent forward for a week and we were building this post, and we literally had portaloos in 40-degree heat, which weren't bloody nice. So we were being relieved by A Company, who were Dubs and the Curragh. And 2 days before they arrived, the new accommodation blocks came, which was literally a porta cabin on the back of a truck, and they drop it off wherever they wanted it and buggered off. So me and some of the guys decided we weren't too happy with the fact that we were after spending the last week peeing and pooing in a portaloo, which was basically a plastic box in 40-degree heat, when we seen this porta cabin with nice little cubicles and urinals and porcelain and all in it. So we robbed all the ball cocks out of them, and I have a ball cock around somewhere that was taken out of them. It's 20 years ago, so I think the statute of limitation has gone in it. So yeah, so that's an unusual thing that I have in my item collection. And how I brought it back, I have no idea. I just got thrown in a backpack or something, and I forgot about it. Do you know if there are any military show? I answered that one. WWB Cavan maybe, but likely won't be until 2022. Yeah, that's the big military museum above. No, it's not WWB Cavan. Not sure of that one, Podrick. I know the National Military Museum. That's actually a private museum. Um, they had ones there as well. It used to be Salute, but I don't know what they were called now. Bricks, I see. I look into that. Okay. Hello, just paying a visit. Well, how are you, Thomas? How are you keeping? You're more than welcome to stay and call in. The museum in Cullen is great. I can't remember if I've been to that one. Is that the National Military Museum or what's called the National Military Museum? I know he has a big, huge World War II collection up there. I haven't been to it. I must get to it actually. Um, it's strange when you don't think about when you don't look at when you come from an area or you forget how much history and things there are around you and you just don't think about it. Thorsten, hello Thorsten. The boys are saying hello there, Thorsten. So yeah, so we've 19 people in tonight. Actually, we've a lot in, and we're 21 minutes in already. So yeah, so that was an unusual item that I have in militaria for my collection. Is a ball cock out of a toilet. Hopefully, there's no one from A Company watching, wondering why they couldn't use their toilet. But a good old boy turned up the goods this afternoon. A 1927 Irish Vickers helmet for £63. That's a fantastic buy because they're first of all they're very very rare to get now these days. And um, Tom, how are you? How are things in Norway? I know that's not how you pronounce your name, but I'm sorry. You're now Tom. Um, yeah, I mean those Vickers helmets are extremely hard to find out, and getting one for €63 or £63 is a very very good price. Um, the Irish stuff prior to the 50s, um, at one stage was very very collectible, and it's extremely hard now to find it. No worries, things are fine, but warm as hell. Um, that's good to hear. I have you been out hiking and stuff? I was watching what video did I watch there the other day that you were doing? You were going hiking and you were getting ready to go on a hike, which with friends of yours from college. Um, but yeah, sorry, getting back to Irish military stuff. Um, there was a market there for 50s era stuff. Um, it was easy to get, but then you had the troubles, and to sell surplus and get surplus from the Irish Army became impossible after that because the they brought in a law pretty much to stop it because I don't know if we ever talked about it before. The paramilitaries, I'm not going to mention different groups because they were all at it, would get uniforms and rob post offices and barracks and use them. So they literally put in a law saying stop it. So you can actually be charged in the Irish Army if you give away your uniform or sell your uniform or anything like that. I watched CJ's video on Vickers today from 12 years ago. The Vickers helmet. Do you have a Vickers helmet, CJ? The helmet was listed as a war helmet with no other details. They didn't even list that it was by its real name. How did you manage to find that? They're extremely hard to find. Big hikes are coming up. Going to do some more training first. Yeah, it's always good to train. I used to do an awful lot of hiking. Um, but I got old and lazy, so I stopped it really. 36C here today in the States. I think it was like 14 degrees here, or 14 or 15 degrees here today. It's very what we call close. It's sticky. It's humid. Um, but yeah, we for 30 degrees. I don't know whether that's Fahrenheit or Celsius. Which probably I can't remember which one we use here. Last week we did get very warm. That went up to like 20, 21 degrees. So yeah, thankfully the summer is starting to kick in, and we're getting good. We're getting things. The heat is starting to come, and there's nothing worse. It really upsets me. I won't say upsets me, but it's especially during the summer or the winter when you're going to work and it's dark and you're coming home and it's dark. It's just miserable. So I really, really like the summer. West Coast has the best mountain views in Ireland. Yeah, Kerry is probably, if you're going to come to Ireland, you want to go hiking and stuff like that. Kerry, the Burn, Galway. They're your hiking spots in Ireland. One guys went me to be Ben Nevis. One guys want me to go to Ben Nevis in July. Never been to Ben Nevis. Uh, Kerry is beautiful. Yeah, Kerry is fantastic. Yep, I had one in the blue black, back in 2008. One of my first YouTube videos, which I sold in 2011. Then found a white civil defense one on eBay a few days ago and went for it. Yeah, I mean, the chances are that civil defense one probably was. The civil defense in Ireland is actually falls under the Department of Defence. Uh, Little known fact for people, but yeah, it falls off. It falls under that. I'm off for a free dive snorkeling tomorrow in Scotland. That must be some spin fuse, Stan, from where you were to Scotland. I hate the heat. Warm weather and battle dress don't mix. Oh, I can remember doing a gig one time when I did in down in a place called Fort Camden in Wexford, Waterford. Um, Sorry, yeah, Fort Camden. Yeah, it's an old coastal artillery position, and I was doing First World War, and it was one of the hottest summers that we've had in a long, long, long time. And I ended up going mufti, and I was Gallipoli. I had my greyback shirt on. I had my cap on with a handkerchief across the back of my neck to try to stop me getting burnt, and my regular pants and my putties and stuff because I couldn't put on my tunic. It was just melting. And thankfully, at the time, I did Munster Fusiliers, and the Munster Fusiliers were in Gallipoli, so I could sort of get away with it. No, only 2 hours gets you just south of Edinburgh. Oh, okay. That's not so bad. Where in Scotland are you visiting Stan? Boy, he's going to meet up with you now, Stan, for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or something. Um, I don't like water. Um, well, sorry, I'll take that back. I do like water. I just don't like going underwater. Um, Official MODN. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, yeah, I don't like really swimming. Nigge. I don't know. Can one of the admins there deal with him there, please? Um, St. Ebbs. Nope, still not there. Have to work that out. Um, St. Ebbs. I've never actually been to Scotland, to tell you the truth. I must go there sometime. So bricklaying, so boring, or whatever. Um, so yeah, so I mean, it's crazy the stuff that's over there. Scotland, never been there. Wales, I have been there. Um, England, years and years ago. Um, why do people have to be Egypt? God only knows. I don't know. But he's dealt with it anyway. I think it was Andrew. Andrew's after giving him a wallop. Um, so yeah, north of Eyemount, Basra, Iraq, August 2005, 25C. Um, I that was it. There was a famous documentary, actually. Well, not a famous documentary. It was a good documentary done years ago. Probably still on the RTE archives about the Irish Irish guys that had been serving in the Irish Guards at the time, and it was they did a show. There was one of the guys that was actually on that documentary was unfortunately killed in Basra, um, and it was unusual. Well, I won't say it was unusual at the time. It was very. what's the word I'm looking for? It was basically he was given a full military funeral in Ireland, and some guys came over from the Irish Guards, pallbearers and stuff like that, and he was actually given a military funeral in Ireland, and the lads were um, they were given state permission was what was the word I'm looking for, and he was given a full military burial in Ireland, um, which was nice. I mean, at the end of the day, he should have gotten his respects, proper respects paid to him. Um, so yeah, that was good. That was interesting. Well, I won't say it was interesting. It wasn't interesting for the poor chaps who passed away. Worked a fair bit in the Australian steel industry, welding, etc. 40C in heat overalls. Not amusing. No, for anything to do with the heat is not amusing. I can remember getting back to war stories. Put on your helmets, guys. Um, being overseas, and um, it'd be a fella's birthday or something like that, and we were allowed have we had a canteen. Uh, we had a canteen, and the guys we were allowed was it one bottle of beer a week, and we used to save it up. And at the end of the month, because you wouldn't get into camp that often anyway, but we'd save it up, and you'd have a fella's birthday or anything for to get a few beers into us. And we had a beer called El Maza, and it was muck. I I don't think I've ever seen it since. We used to only drink it over there, but it would give you the worst hangover God ever created. And to have a helmet on you and a flak jacket and standing on a checkpoint or above on a roof or something, it was painful. Nordic, Irish, and British folks don't cope with the heat very well. No, we don't like the heat, um, especially when we've all pasty skin and we get burnt very, very quick. I don't know how people with red hair and pale complexions survive in summer at all. But yeah, so there we go. So yeah, sorry. So we'll talk about the work that we have been doing for the week. So what we have context that I have made. I have guys. I there's a lot of guys that feel more comfortable in emailing me rather than talking on the comments and stuff like that. Um, so that's perfectly fine. The email will always be in top of the video descriptions. It's Shanahan Military in 1944 at outlook.com or something like that. Or 1944, 1945 at outlook.com. So, guys have been in contact with me. Andrew has been in contact with me. Podrick has been in contact with me. Stan has been in contact with me. A few of the lads have been in contact with me, right? So, if you want to donate something, that is perfectly okay. If you want to donate something, me do a video on it and I send it back to you, that is perfectly okay also. But I have had guys that are getting out of the hobby or for whatever reason have changed interests and stuff like that and have decided to sell me items from their collection. So coming up, we have a World War II American collection coming in. That will be coming up. We also have some airsoft replicas coming in that we will hopefully be doing videos on. And I have had some guys that were in other services, militaries and stuff like that, who are Irish guys that will possibly come online and we will do a video with them, interview video type thing. And I have also been working on, because an awful lot of people have been asking about history of the area and stuff like that. Um, so I hopefully to be doing an out and about touring of the area now that COVID has lifted. So hopefully we will get there. Hottest I felt was 41 degrees in Kosovo. Helmet, body armor was torture. Yeah, they're lethal. If you want to lose weight, that's a good way to lose weight. Um, how are you doing? Glad to catch the stream, David. You're more than welcome. Thanks for coming. Um, World War II American, very nice. Looking forward to seeing that. Yeah. No, a lot of it is reproduction. It's a young guy, obviously, who didn't have much money to invest in the collection, and he's decided to go off and do something else. So that's perfectly okay. He's still in the hobby, but he's gone a different direction. But he did send me photos of the reproductions and stuff, and it is very good quality, and it's stuff that we can work with. And as I said before, I don't have a problem in somebody put using reproduction stuff for reenactment displays, something like that, once you say it is a reproduction and you don't try and pass it off as original. So yeah, that should be coming up, and it's Second Ranger Battalion. It was his area that he was collecting, so it should be interesting. Where are we going? I'm going to a 40s weekend next week in Dungarn, Stirling area. Oh, they're good crack actually. Um, I've been to a 40s dance before, um, which was great crack. It was a birthday party for a family member, and they're big into train spotting, uh, vintage style thing. So he was 60, and he had a 40s themed birthday party. So yeah, that was good crack. So we all went on that. Um, so that was very interesting. Um, Always sad to see people selling their collections. Where have I gone? Sorry, I missed a few. Looking forward to the new editions. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm going to try and stick with Op Banner, Vietnam, World War Two, and First World War. Otherwise, I will get overrun with stuff. So um, that's what we're sticking to at the minute. So World War Two. I know it is American, and I know I've been trying to concentrate on the Royal Ulster Rifle side of it, but I just couldn't refuse the opportunity. So yeah, so here we go. So yeah, so it's part of the collection now. Always sad to see people selling their collection, currently in the process of absorbing a Soviet collection in Germany because of COVID. Currently, currently in the process of absorbing a Soviet collection in Germany because of COVID. All right, so your man is selling his collection. That's sad. Um, like if guys approach me and say, "Look, I have this. I'm trying to sell it off," or I'm trying to get rid of it or whatever, I always make double checking. Are you sure you want to get rid of this? Because I know myself. Um, Sometimes when you say I'm getting out of it or whatever, and you sell it on, especially with my World War One collection, I do regret selling a lot of the stuff or passing off an awful lot of the stuff that I had. Um, so yeah, it can be frustrating when you try to get back into it. When COVID is done, I'm definitely coming to reenactment events in the UK. I hope to be the same. I hope to do the same. I hope to try and get over to a few shows, meet up with guys that I've met through YouTube, met through collecting and stuff like that. If nothing else, just sit down, have a cup of tea with, and have a chat. It's nice to meet somebody face to face. Like the reason I started doing the live streams on a Friday was because of COVID, because we were all locked down and we couldn't really get to talk to people, couldn't show the interests and stuff like that to people. So yeah, so that's why I started the live streams. Is a sickness, but it is a very sweet sickness. This collecting thing, I mean, yeah, it is a collection. It is a sickness, and you can let it get the better of you. You do need to rein yourself in every now and again and go, okay, slow down, because when I've noticed, especially during COVID, I was getting stuff every week. I was bored and on eBay or some other site and ordering stuff and then going, holy crap, where's all this coming out of? Like, steel helmet stand. I reckon a collection will come up to and a collection will come to a natural end somehow. I can't see myself dressed in an East German tunic drinking beer on a Saturday afternoon when or if I make it to my 80s. I don't see a problem why you can't be sitting there in your drinking tunic when you're 80 years of age with your Zimmer frame and you're throwing stuff at people. I personally don't see that at all. Oh, somebody else has been attacked. Good men, lads, whatever. Well done, mods, whatever they're at. Um, I have been in contact with YouTube actually. There is a problem with an awful lot of these live streams being dealt with, so they are aware of it. So I'm nearly 90% positive. I'd be nearly 100% positive that this will be viewed by YouTube and those people will be dealt with. So I'm not too worried about it. And thankfully, the mods are dealing with them there at the moment. So that's great, crack. Stirlingham is a good event. 19th, 17th, and 19th of September this year. The one I wanted to get to last year, but obviously things went pear shaped. And the most famous one, I suppose, that I was looking into was War and Peace. Um, I wanted to go to that, and I for some reason, that show just stuck in my head to try and get over to see that one. I can't remember, was it Rifleman Moore that did a video on it, and it just stuck in my head about going there to see it because it looked fantastic. So yeah, so I must look up some shows in the UK about going to. As long as the rank matches the age, you can get away with. Why is my phone going nuts? Um, as long as as long as the rank matches the age, you can get away with anyway drinking, wearing an officer's uniform. Yeah, exactly. Just dress yourself up as I don't know who, name an 80-year-old. What was the famous French general that defended Verdun during the Second World War or during the First World War, and then um, ended up doing the Vichy government during World War Two. He was the famous French general that all went mental over. Any tips on how to reshape boots? Recently bought Northern Ireland patrol boots, but they were bent out of shape. Very disappointed. Quick packaging has made them difficult to wear. Um, Wet them, pack them with newspaper. Um, Pack them with newspaper, yeah, all the way to the top. Lace them up, let them dry. Hopefully, that will get the shape back in them. Um, and then, while you have that, when they're dry, then go to a cobbler's or a saddle maker's or something like that and get leather conditioner and leather soap or saddle soap or something like that, and just keep lathering them until the leather gets soft again. That's about the only tip I can give you. Liam, patron. I don't understand what that means. Philippe Patan, that's the lad I'm thinking of. Yeah, good man, Tom. Well done. Yeah, he turned sides during the Second World War. That sounds like a plan. Yeah, there you go. There's your 80-year-old plan now, Stan. When you decide to change your tunic, your drinking tunic. How do I remove? How do you remove cosmoline? Some say petrol or boiling water. It depends what it's on. If it's on a gun, or sorry, if it's on a bang bang, or uh, a lead deliverer, boiling it, yeah, works. Petrol also works. You can actually get a degreaser, like an engine degreaser, that will also work. Yeah, so it depends what the cosmoline is on. That's why I am doing home guard next year. Oh, because you're of that age now, Dutchy. Did you think that you need to do the change the rank of your uniform? Cosmoline, I used boiling water and fairy liquid. Let it soak, and it came right off. Yeah, so there you go. There's different methods of doing it. Uh, yeah, degreaser is another one that I mentioned. That they're very good for getting cosmoline and stuff off. Um, I must give all my representations a clean the weekend. Bayonets, yeah, yeah. There you go. Degreaser, yeah, engine degreaser, something like that will work perfect for you. Um, and then just oil and moving parts and stuff like that. WD-40 501. There are other oils available just for your own peace of mind. YouTube. Corporal Jones, they don't like it up in Mr. Mannering. They don't. Actually, I watched. We keep going back to movies. I watched the remake on Netflix. I wasn't that impressed with it. I wasn't that impressed with it. Probably just because the old one uh, has very good memories of me sitting down over Sunday with my old man watching. Um, he used to work hard all week, and then Sundays, like I try and do Sundays as my day, and Carry On's Benny Hill, uh, what was the one? Faulty Towers, Dad's Army, Porridge. We used to watch all them over Sunday. They were good shows. You are not allowed to say certain words on live stream. It's not that you're not allowed to say them, but they can cause issues, shall we say, um, especially when you have plunkers, because Andrew and the boys there are dealing with them on the live stream that decide to report the channel as not having historical content. Any good sites for military mannequin? Can never seem to find any UK sites to buy a military mannequin. Um, I don't know if any of you watch Regimentals. He's a dealer. He actually did a series on dressing mannequins and stuff like that, and he mentioned a website. I think they're Dutch or French. They specifically make smaller statue or mannequins for World War II items, because people back then were smaller and more petite than they are now. So yeah, so that'd be I can't remember what one it was on, but he did mention them. Um, yeah, so there are ones out there. I got mine off of the likes of Gumtree and things like that. That's where I got my ones. And except for that one, those three were bought out of a shop, uh, a men's dress shop that was gone bust. And they did have, I should have gotten it, but I didn't pick it up at the time. They had a tailor's mannequin, which would have been perfect, just a torso for showing jackets and stuff like that. But I didn't get one at the time. I should have gotten one, but sure, we'll get there in the end. I used I used a dressmaker's mannequin on both of mine, and I made legs for them, but they don't have arms. Your mannequins though, I like your mannequins. I do like the I think it's your mannequins. They don't actually have a head. They have just a frame that you can just sit the cap on top of. Um, they're good. Um, CJ, Military Collectibles. He's got torsos as well that are very good, um, for displaying tunics and stuff like that. They're good investments to get. Um, yeah, like if you've got buy and sell websites in different areas. I know in Ireland there's one called Dundee. You have eBay. You've Gumtree. You have those type of sites that you can come across bits and pieces. So yeah, yeah. So it stands one that just have the frame that you can just sit the heads on or the hats on top of. Where can where can you get mannequins? Oh yeah, that's where we're saying. Um, so yeah, so any buy and sell site, try and find them. Even eBay has them from time to time. Anywhere, like just if you're buying free to a good home, those type of sites, things like that. There's the ones where you'll get your come across things like that. As well, if you're like in your local area, um, a friend of mine who collects as well, he got display cabinets out of a jeweler's that was closing down. He literally walked in and went, "Can I have those?" And they went, "I can't remember how much it was. I think it was €100 a cabinet, and he got two or three of them." So yeah, so there we go. So yeah, just keep your eye out. The thing about collecting, military collecting, is you branch off looking for stuff to display. You're always on the hunt for different things. You go, oh yeah, that look handy for like like that shelving unit came out of somewhere or other. Um, like a flat pack one you just put together, and I went, oh yeah, that'll be display helmets. That's from a DIY shop. Put helmets and stuff on, so you'll find bits and pieces around everywhere. I ended up buying my mannequins from a car boot sale. The torsos and stands from dressmakers seem to be cheaper option for displaying jackets and kit. Nowadays, eBay is probably the best place. Yeah, eBay for everything. Yeah, so they're good. Yeah, it's all about thinking outside the box and seeing how things will. You can adapt with things. That's exactly it. You're always trying to find stuff. What regiments did I serve in? We don't have regiments in the Irish Army. We have battalions. Um, but I was in the infantry. That was my job when I was in the infantry. I was in a support company. Sorry, paper I'm kicking here on the floor. I was in an infantry battalion. If that answers your question. Yeah, so we don't have regiments. We just have battalions or corps. Yeah, so I trained. Yeah, I trained as infantry, and then when I came out of recruit training, um, I was. You're asked. You're given an option where you want to go, to what battalion, what unit, and I asked for infantry, and I got infantry, and thankfully I got the support company of the infantry, which is good because you have most infantry companies. Sorry, most infantry battalions. You have two line companies, and then you have a support company, and the support company is sort of the specialists of that battalion. So we're taught how to use radios, mortars, anti-tank guns, snipers, assault pioneers, things like that. So you pick up a multitude of trades in the support company compared to an regular infantry company. Um, that's something Ireland has in common with Norway. We don't have regiments, only battalions. Yeah, exactly. Um, and then it might have changed, but before it was you had to do 2 years in a combat role before you could branch off. So you had to do 2 years in either artillery, cavalry, or infantry before you could branch off to do engineers, medics, signals, um, any other logistics, any other transport, any of those other units. You had to do 2 years in a normal infantry unit. So yeah, I see the mods are doing good today, whatever the hell they're at. Or sorry, not what you're at, lads. You're doing a good job. Um, so yeah, but yeah. So I mean, the battalions. Then there was a big. I think it was in 2006, 2006, 2007. There was another big, massive restructure in the army. So things may have changed since then. I know they disbanded what was then called the FCA. Sorry, it was the FCA. Then it became the RDF, the Reserve Defence Forces. Sorry, I'm wrong. What did I think of this? It was the FCA. Then the FCA was disbanded, and they made what's called the RDF, or the Reserve Defence Forces, and then they're amalgamated now with regular army units. So they added a company to each battalion as a reserve company, and that's where the reserve comes in there now. The museum pub I was in last week had up banner stuff in it. Yeah, I seen that actually. That was a fantastic, fantastic museum pub. So hopefully when we get to England, we can call over there and have a few pints. I know Podrick is already on about packing the sandwiches and the flasks of tea for when we're allowed to go over, and we're going to go check it out. Andrew, you're like Clint Eastwood. You beat me every time. He's John Wayne. This town is only big enough for one of us. Uh, so that's the crack anyway. Um, yeah, so I mean, the collection, as I said, the emails and stuff that I've been getting over the week has been fantastic, and the support that we're getting. I mean, we're up to 388, 388 subscribers now, which is fantastic. I never even thought I'd get halfway near that. And we seem to be getting one every couple of days now, so it's good. And people seem to enjoy the content. I know the last um, 2 or 3 videos, the Paddy Whacker, the baton, which is here over here actually at the minute, that baton, and the windproofs and the World War II items seem to be, they got an awful lot of comments and an awful lot of interest, especially the haversack contents, the small kit. An awful lot of people were impressed with that. I actually have a First World War small kit collection that I've not 100% finished at the minute. So I might do a video on that as well at some point in time. Um, and some guys actually gave me some very, very good pointers in relation to the World War II kit that I'm putting together. I know it was mentioned in an email and stuff. A gentleman that knows a bit more about the Royal Ulster Rifles. Um, they wore their beret, their service dress, their cap the other way around. Instead of most regiments would have their cap edge over their left eye, the Royal Ulster Rifles actually had it over their right eye. Um, I knew that, and I know that. Sorry, the glider-borne infantry still wore it over the right eye, but the infantry wore it over their left eye. Along with the London Irish did the same thing. But the the I couldn't find. I didn't know when they started doing it because I can only find it as an official dress code in 1947. But apparently, during the Second World War, they wore it that way as well. So that was a nice bit of information that I didn't know. I knew, but I didn't know that they were doing it. I thought it was after 1947. Yeah, I know the Paddywhacker was a Mark II version with the squared off end. I learned that from your channel. Yeah, so that's the flat one. So that's the Mark II. Sorry there. That's the Mark One with the round end. And as you can see, they're slightly. I put them on my knee. There's a big difference in, not the big difference in the length, but there's a massive difference in the weight. That one is a lot heavier than that one. So yeah, so there you go. That's what you done here out of the way. So yeah, people do find the off banner stuff very interesting, and I like that. Because it's a very, very important part of Irish history, and we need to learn from it, and we need to educate the younger generation to make sure we never go back that way. Um, because no one wins from a conflict like that. Um, so yeah, people actually I'll see. I don't know if there's an interest in it, but I have gotten one or two emails about people asking me to do if I can do like a a compressed history of the War of Independence, the Civil War leading up to the Troubles. Um, and I have thought about it, and it can be done, but the thing is to try and I don't know if people would be interested in it. That's the thing. Maybe one or two people, but I don't know if there's a massive interest in that field of history. Maybe for Irish people, but I can't see outside of that. Um, And strangely enough, when I check my analytics, um, to see where the majority of people subscribe from is actually the UK and America. Um, so yeah, it's strange. I have a strange dynamic of subscribers. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. I enjoy people subscribing, and I enjoy talking to people. So yeah, so there we go. Where have we gone? Do, 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 do. Uh, what wood were they made of? Hickory or oak? I don't know, but they're bloody heavy. I'd say they're hickory, to tell you the truth. They need to be a hardwood anyway, obviously, that they don't break. Um, so I'd say you're not far off of hickory. Um, we used to carry the 58 pattern pick halves on guard duty. We called them sapper tappers. Um, I know the lad. I know in the Irish Army, on fire picket before the lads used to actually carry pickaxe handles. Was what they used to carry. Um, yeah, and then you got battens and stuff like that. The lads on guard were always armed, but the lads on fire picket that were doing patrols of certain areas had pickaxe handles. Can I ask what would have been the role of the Irish Army in the event of the Soviet invasion of Western Europe during the Cold War? They had a plan in place, and it was literally going to be the same as the what we call the emergency World War II, whereas we would try to stay out of it as much as we possibly could. But they did have a plan in place where there was going to be mass call-ups and increase budgeting and stuff like that. Um, there was a huge problem, especially on the east of coast of Ireland, that they were afraid if it did go nuclear, that the fallout would hit the east coast. So they had like evacuation plans and stuff like that in place. But that's to the best of my knowledge, that's in general what I can remember about the plan for the Cold War. Started on a banner kit this year was inspired by you on the 1984 video. Nearly finished now. Only need a hairy Mary. Um, Give me an email. I might have a spare one somewhere, and I can send it to you. Um, so yeah, so I'm glad I inspired you. Um, I I didn't mean to. Well, I won't say I didn't mean to inspire you, but I mean I take that as a compliment if I inspired somebody to start collecting something. Uh, we have set and waited it out. Any engagement would have been naval infantry or VDV. Ireland would have been impossible to operate in Ireland given the Soviet inflexible doctrine. Yeah, I mean, thankfully it didn't happen. It would have been a scary, scary place if it did happen. Um, so yeah, they did have lots and lots of plans in place for different emergencies. Some of them I have heard through the pipeline. Others I don't have a bloody clue what they would have done. Thanks for that. I did read that Ireland was to be targeted by the Soviets. It wouldn't surprise me. The Germans I knew during the Second World War were mad to try and get Ireland to come into the war so that they could use it as a U-boat base. And the Americans, and with an awful lot of pushing of Irish Americans, were looking for it to come into play um, as part of the Allies, so they could use it as a base for the invasion of Europe. So, thankfully, that didn't happen neither. There was an awful lot of Americans came into the north, all right, and Derry, Londonderry, whichever way you want to call it, that was actually the main base for ships training in anti-submarine warfare for the Atlantic. Little unknown fact fee. Um, so yeah, that was it. And then you do have World War II history in relation to Ireland as well, where you have plane crashes, B-17s on the way to England, running into engine trouble and ditching on Irish soil and things like that. Um, on the east coast as well, and down south or southeast, I should say, you have some British fighters, Spitfires, and things like that ran into trouble fighting in air battles and stuff over the Irish Sea and ditched in Irish waters or Irish land. Logistics would have been impossible to supply given NATO submarines in Britain in front of us. Yeah, I mean, that's one good thing about Ireland. I won't say it's a good thing about Ireland, but it has helped us in our past is the fact that we're an island, and islands are notoriously hard to conquer. Would the B-17 crews get interned? Yeah. Any soldier, sailor, or airman that landed on Irish soil in Southern Ireland during the Second World War were interned in a camp in Curragh. Um, that was the Taoiseach at the time, De Valera, Eamon De Valera. That was his brainstorm, and that was a way to keep Ireland out of the war. ICBMs for Northern Ireland, not Southern Ireland. Well, I mean, the thing about hitting Northern Ireland with an ICBM would have been that you would have had fallout in Southern Ireland as well. Um, so yes, I mean, we would have gotten in trouble at that stage. guess it's impossible to remain neutral for long in a full war situation. Well, we managed to do it during the Second World War. We managed to stay neutral through wheeling and dealing, but we managed to do it, which was good. Uh, just a short bit of history, I suppose. I think we've talked about it before. Uh, Second World War, Ireland was neutral, um, and that came out by Eamon de Valera, who was the Taoiseach declared, which would be the British equivalent of a prime minister. He declared Ireland neutrality. Ireland has only ever declared neutrality once, and that was during the Second World War. Ireland, people have this thing that Ireland is neutral. Ireland, it depends on the government of the day to decide whether Ireland is neutral or not, and it has only ever declared neutrality during the Second World War. So Eamon de Valera came up with this brainstorm because he had Germany at one side of him going, please enter into the war. We're fighting your old foe, the British. We want to use Ireland as a U-boat base for the Battle of the Atlantic. The Americans and the British were the other side going, please, please, please join the war on our side because we want to use Ireland as a base for the invasion of Europe. Easy to defend. It's an island. It's smaller than the UK. Please. So de Valera said, no, neither of you are having it. Now, bearing in mind that an awful lot of guys from the south were going across on the boats to the UK and joining the British Army, an awful lot of Irish Americans that had emigrated or had Irish descent or were from Irish parents in the US were joining up and were fighting in the war anyway. But de Valera said that if any soldier, sailor, or airman from any side touches foot on Irish soil, we are interning them. And they did. They put them in a big prison camp in the Curragh camp, which there are photos of, and it is documented. And so what would happen was you could break out, you could escape from the prison, and it was classified as fair game. So the Irish would let guys out on the weekend and stuff like that, whereas they would sign a piece of paper on their bond saying that they would not escape. And if they escaped and went to the north or managed to get back to the UK, they would send them back. Don't upset the Irish. You're going back. That's where you're supposed to be. You're going back. And they did that on multiple occasions. But there were breakouts where guys literally ran out the gate or tunneled out of it and managed to get back. So that was classified as a fair escape. So, okay, lads, you managed to do it, so off you go. They weren't sent back. But yeah, it's an interesting story in relation to that. Like, did Churchill offer de Valera a united Ireland if they joined the Allies? There are rumours that it was on the table, but I don't think, because de Valera was anti-treaty during the Civil War. So I mean, if it was on the table, it would have been a possibility because he was one of the flag wavers for Irish for the at the time of the Civil War for anti-partition or to stop the partition of the country. So I mean, I don't know. There is a rumor that it was on the table, but I don't know if it ever was there. Because if it was, I could see de Valera actually thinking about it and going, maybe, but I don't know. We were jeering when he told Churchill off on these broadcasts and letters. Sorry? We were all jeering when he told Churchill off in those broadcasts and letters. Yeah, he literally wrote letters and said, no, not happening. Not doing it. I read that many airmen joined the British Army during both wars. I believe that many returned men faced discrimination upon their return to Ireland. I won't say discrimination. They weren't discriminated against, but they literally came back and it was like, okay, you've been away for 5 years. Fair enough. And hidden under the carpet. I don't think that I haven't found any written evidence that there was discrimination against them. Now there might have been the odd jeering or stuff from people, um, from the Second World War guys, of why did you go and fight for the British. First World War was completely a different kettle of fish. I thought I read it somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I did. I do know that there was. It is rumored that happened. But sorry, getting back to Thomas's question about the First World War guys. First World War, those guys that fought in the First World War was a completely different kettle of fish. Ireland had been granted neutrality, or sorry, Ireland had been granted home rule in 1912, I believe it was, 1913. They were granted home rule, which basically meant we would have become the likes of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, whereas we could have had our own parliament and stuff like that. But in the north, you had a group of people who were afraid of that happening because you had a big divide in Ireland between rich and poor. And without being too political about this, the rich and a lot of the people in the north were Protestant. And they were afraid that if Dublin got home rule, that it would affect them. So they signed the anti-home rule bill, and they became the UDA, or the Ulster Defence Association. And their mission was to stop home rule. So the Irish, or the people down south who were for home rule, they set up a group called the Irish Volunteers. And the Irish Volunteers was to fight for home rule if it was granted, and this group up the north decided to start fighting, or whatever way you want to call it. England actually backed the Irish Volunteers because they were going, okay, there's a brood of a civil war going on here now, and if there's a civil war, we don't want to fight it. So they actually gave arms, instruction, and manpower and instructors to the Irish Volunteers in case there was a civil war. But then they were doing the same to the UDA because they were going, okay, well, if they actually win the civil war and we are after backing the lads down south, there's going to be trouble. So that crap was going on. Then the war happened in 1914, right? And the British government, Lloyd George, said, okay, we can't give you home rule. We'll go fight. We'll deal with Germany first, and we'll deal with the First World War, or the war to end all wars, as it was known back then, or the Great War. When the war's over, we'll talk about home rule, and we'll figure out what's going on over there. So basically, the politicians at the time, both North and both South, said, okay, we'll go fight for you if you guarantee us that home rule won't go through. The lads down south said, okay, we'll go fight for you if you make sure home rule goes through. Lloyd George and the English government basically went, we don't care. We just need troops to go to France. Off you go, right? So all these guys went to France and fought side by side in battles in France. Right. So that was fine. That was going on. You had 1916 happen, which was a uprising in Dublin on Easter weekend, 1916, where they took over buildings, the Four Courts, the GPO, other buildings in Dublin, Jacobs Bowling Mills, Jacobs Factory, things like that, right? Uprising was quashed within a week. Those people that were in that uprising were actually taken out of those areas when they surrendered, were stoned, were spat at, had bricks thrown at them, had vegetables thrown at them, were not liked because an awful lot of the Irish population at that stage were in France fighting to make sure when they got back that there was home rule, or there wasn't going to be home rule, whichever side of the divide they were on. What happened to turn the population against the British was they executed without trial. Sorry, there was a trial. There was a military court-martial. they executed the leaders of the 1916 Rising. If they'd have put them in prison and if they'd have dealt with them in other ways, who knows what could have happened. But it was the fact that they executed them that the Irish population turned and said, hang on a second, there was no one, that was unjust, that was uncalled for, stuff like that, right? So you're talking 1917, 1918, right? You still had the vast majority of those guys that were involved in the 1916 Rising interned in Long Kesh in Wales. Sorry, not in Long Kesh, in, Jesus, what was the name of the prison camp in Wales? They were interred in Wales, and it was literally a Republican factory, whereas they took everyone with any type of republicanism and put them in this camp, and it became a breeding ground. 1918 1919 happened. Lads started coming back from France. Hang on a second. We went to France, fought for you for the last 4 years. What about our home rule? Oh, we renege on it. We're stopping it or whatever. The War of Independence did not really kick off until all those guys came back from the internment camps or the guys came back from France. You have hundreds of thousands of trained combat veterans now without jobs, without work, after going fighting a war that they've been lied to about, right? That's when the War of Independence really kicked off. Then we had a guy come out of jail called Michael Collins. Now, Michael Collins was an visionary in relation to how tactics of warfare should have been fought, all right? He worked his way up the ranks of the IRA, became the Minister for Intelligence, right? As he said himself, I became the Minister for General Mayhem. And he was very, 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 very good at it, right? So when all those guys came back, they started fighting and doing a guerrilla campaign against the RIC, right? The RIC was the Royal Irish Constabulary. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to undermine British rule in Ireland. So what they did was they set up their own courts, they set up their own policing system, they set up their own tax system. They basically set up their own home rule cabinet and basically were attacking RUC stations, attacking police stations so that the police could not operate, right? Then you had the British government going, hang on a second, we can't have these upstarts over there having their own courts, having their own taxation system, having their own government without doing anything about it. So then they sent over the Black and Tans, they sent over the auxiliaries, which are two separate forces when you look into it. And basically dirty war started then. And then that's when the War of Independence really, really, really kicked off, was when those lads came over. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, there was a war. The war was basically fought at a standstill. Lloyd George, the British government went, okay, we're sick of dealing with the Irish. Let's have a peace treaty. Let's have a talk. De Valera, who was at that stage, I believe he was the de facto president of Ireland, knew that there was no way in hell that they were going to give Ireland a republic, right? But he knew we would get a home bill or we would get a treaty. If you ask me, he sent over Collins as a fall guy because he knew that he wasn't going to come back with it. Collins was going to come back with this, and he could paint Collins as the bad guy, and whoever else went over with him as the bad guys, that they didn't come back with a full country. Then Collins, when he came home, he said, look, this is a stepping stone for a republic. I am a Republican. If the people vote for this, I will back it. If they don't vote for it, I will carry on fighting. But I'm telling you that the war will be a war that will never be seen to be fought on Irish soil. It'll be bloody, it'll be vicious, and the whole lot. They voted for it, and the treaty was passed. And then you had the Civil War. That's a later history we will get onto. So that's a compressed version of 5 years of history in 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was there. Sorry, guys, I went off on a rant there. UVF, not UDA. Sorry, I apologize. It was the Ulster Conference that signed in 1912. There you go. Looking for an inert or replica DM51 grenade for a Bundeswehr kit. Do I know of anywhere in the UK? I don't know. Try Epic. There you go. Stands after answering it there. Epic Militaria, Soldier of Fortune, Worldwide Arms. Try those type of guys. Where have we gone? Kenny, try Relics. J, think they have replica ones. Kenny, cheers, guy. Thorsten, wow, thanks for that history lesson. I am an immigrant to the UK, so my Irish history is sadly lacking. I need to read up about it more. Yeah, so that's. I'm sorry if I bored you guys, but that's just a compressed version of what happened um, in for how Ireland became a republic. We didn't actually become a republic then. We were a colony up until the 30s, and then we became a republic. I agree. He sent Collins because he could take the brunt of abuse and make it out. Dev's mistake was becoming a mouthpiece for the anti-treaty side and lost control. But this is yeah, exactly. It was strange. It was just a he like when you look into De Valera too, some of the dealings he did were very fishy. You did not bore us. Thanks, Brian. Thank you very much. I tried not to bore you, lads. DM51 grenade relics in the UK do repos £35. Uh, decent, make Dev any more likable though. Doesn't make Dev any more likable. No, I thought Dev's a strange character. You either like him or hate him. No, it was very interesting. Thanks, Stan. Was interesting. My grandparents are both from Ireland. Oh, very good. Yeah, so there's your Friday night history lesson. So and then like the War of Independence, or sorry, not the War of Independence, the Civil War in relation to civil wars was probably the most bloodiest civil war you will ever read about and you will ever research or you will ever find out. It was vicious. I mean, vicious. Brother against brother, father against grandfather. It was unreal. And then, like the civil war, then thankfully was very relatively short in relation to civil wars. Very interesting. Oh, yeah. The civil war lasted from 22 to 23. It wasn't that long of a civil war, and unfortunately, Collins was killed in a place called Belnablaw in Galway or in Cork. He got shot in the head on an ambush. Um, if he hadn't been killed, I believe it would have been a completely different Ireland. Nearly, um, I that was one of the turning points, and then that's what made it even bloodier. The Civil War even bloodier was the fact that Collins had been killed because he was such a loved character. I mean, to this day, even De Valera himself admitted, and an awful lot of that staunch Republicans admitted that Collins won the War of Independence. Like, um, people are bitterly divided to this day. I have seen shouting matches in pubs over it. Neighbours still gamble over it, grumble over it. Even best friends. Yeah, it still is. It still is a very grey area in relation to Irish history. Like you have two divisions in Irish politics. You have Dev side, which became Fianna Fáil, and you have Collins' side, which became Fine Gael. Excuse me. And if you ask me if the two men were alive and they seen how Irish politics were now at the minute, they would go mental, and not in a good way. Um, yeah. Look, I'm not getting into politics. Politics is one of those things you don't talk about. So we're up in an hour and 24 minutes. So we'll give it as long as you want. Do you want to shoot questions at me for a while, guys, and we'll see how things go. Ranger, hello, how are you? You were here last week. You're an admin, so you've been around for a while. Um, So yeah. So we just had a brief history on Irish history there. A brief history on Irish history. A brief talk on Irish history. People use the Civil War as a means to exact revenge over stupid things. Like yeah, the Civil War. Um, the Civil War was it was fought over. There was people killed over ridiculous things. Marriage, guys marrying daughters. You're not good enough for my daughter. My daughter's not good enough for you. Um, Land, as he said, as Podrick said there. You offered me. I wanted to buy that farm, and you didn't sell that farm. And oh, completely mentalness, completely strange things. Like, would you have joined? Uh, would you have joined Valadira or Michael McCollum? Michael McCollum? What service does the Irish Army use? They use the Steyr Og, the Austrian Steyr Og. They have updated it now. It's got a rail, and it used to have 1:4 standard scope sight on the top of it that doubled as a carrying handle, but they have updated it now that it takes an ACOG sight. I have bad spelling. You want about would I have taken De Valera's side or would I have taken Collins' side? And I joined the Irish Army, so that should answer to which side I would have taken. Would have been Collins's, because Collins was the rank was retired after Collins. Collins was the last general of the Irish Army. Then it was retired. Yeah, so there you go. Collins is still very thought well of in the Irish Army, more so than the first fellow you mentioned. So, um, like the Irish Army would have been the Free State side of the Civil War. So yeah, and that's how Irish guys or Irish soldiers on the border, we would be called Free Staters because we had taken the treaty side. What is the current combat helmet of the Irish Army? It is I can't remember the abbreviation for it, but it's basically the American. It's like a Mitch. Is it the Mitch 2000? It's basically that style of helmet. It's most helmets now across the world can trace their origins back to the M35 German helmet. Um, so yeah, it's that style that comes down. They used to have the Israeli Alman. I have one there actually that I need to finish. I'm still trying to get the correct type of paint to restore it back, and I'm going to do an 80s mannequin on it. Thorsten, lucky break then. I remember the British Army were trying to sell the AC-80s back in the day. Yeah, they did a trial when they went from the SLR or the FN to 5.56. They tried the SA-80, they tried the Galil variant, they tried the FN 5.56 variant, they tried a Czech thingamabobby, and they tried the Steyr. And we couldn't have the Galil because we were in Lebanon. We couldn't have the SA-80 because of the north. We couldn't have the M16 because of the Americans. That was another one that we're trying. We couldn't have that one because of the Americans, because we were on UN duties, and to look impartial, they didn't want us to be seen being armed with the M16. So I think we were getting this Czech piece of crap no one wanted, and some guy with a brain in his head went, hang on a second, the Steyr is a good gun and has come well on the trials, and Austria has a butter shortage, and we've plenty of butter. So that's how they ended up with the Steyr. The Steyr was known as the butter gun, whereas they had actually done a trade deal. As part of the deal for us to get Steyrs was they traded with butter to Austria. Little known fact for you. Sorry, what is the current helmet? Do the Irish expense combat like the French? Do the Irish experience combat like the French? How do you mean? Do we experience combat like the French? Um, do we do the same French tactics? I don't know. I don't know. What do you mean by that? The SA-80 isn't that bad. It was rubbish at the time. Yeah. The SA-80. It's not actually the SA-80. It's the L-85 A1, A2, and A3, if I remember correctly. It had different upgrades, and the A3 one now, the new one, I believe was redone by Heckler and Koch, and apparently it's a fantastic gun now. Um, Wish I could get the SA-80 here, but these are there's a restriction. Where are you, Shando? Shando, in Africa, Syria, or where are the? Oh, sorry. Um, at the moment, they're still in Lebanon. They're in Syria. There's some units in Africa. There is a group that goes to New York HQ, UN HQ in New York, but that's mainly officers and senior NCOs as an attaché to the United Nations. Um, they're everywhere. There's lots of different missions. They've been in Congo, they've been in Eritrea, Liberia, East Timor, Mali, Somalia, Syria, Bosnia. Did I mention Bosnia? Um, Sarajevo. They've been everywhere. Um, I think he means the Mali UN troops. Yeah, I believe I'm not going to go into details, but I believe the Rangers have had their few scrapes over. Sorry, sorry for being stupid, but does the Irish Army have main battle tanks? They don't have main battle tanks, but they do have Scorpion armored cars. I don't know if they still have them. They used to have them. We did have main battle tanks. We had Churchills and stuff like that. They do have Scorpion tanks. They used to. They possibly don't anymore. The Moags is the armored car that they use. We used to have a thing called Sizus, which were Finnish. AML 90s, which were French. Um, yeah, they've had lots of different armored cars. I wasn't cavalry, so I can't really tell you what um, armored cars they had, but I know they had Scorpions, um, Moags, and Sizus because we trained on them. Where have I gone? Shando, yes. A house I owned housed a doctor who was shot by a hired IRA man over an abortion in 1923. His name was Meldon, buried outside my home in the cemetery, but enough Civil War stuff from me. Yeah, that happened. It did happen. SA-80 mags coming out and dust covers breaking off. Then Heckler and Koch rejig in 2001. Remember things, uh, packaging. Remember taking them out of the packaging in 2000. I remember actually there was a big problem with there was no guard, if I remember correctly. Guys telling me there was no guard on the original SA-80 when they came out for the magazine release, which was on the inside. So if it banged off them, the magazine would just fall out. So that was another one. Your logo has a P. What B? What? With B anchors. Is that a symbol of fighting Poland used by Home Army? Yes, it is. I have friends of mine that are Polish, and we went to Poland on a tour type thing, and we went to the Polish Underground Army Museum. That logo is from there. So the guy just said, "Look here, use that. You're looking for something military," and it's interesting. And people who sort of know about military history from World War II will understand what that symbol means. So that's why I use that. Um, that's where the idea came from. Comets were used briefly too, but most tanks ended up in the ground to be shot at. Yeah, they turned a few of them into coastal bunker positions, I believe, as well in Dublin. Um, yeah, I think that's where they were. I'm thinking of getting rid of 58 pattern ribbon I have, as it is just getting dusty. It is unissued. I'm willing to give it to you. I'll email you later. Yeah, Roger or Ranger, there's no hassle. If you want, email me. We can talk, maybe trade if you are thinking about getting rid of it. 1 million subscribers. Hello. What is your favorite? My favorite army suit. I don't understand. My favorite uniform you're talking about, or my favorite camouflage? I'm not 100% sure what you mean. Um, by army suit, dress uniform, camouflage uniform, combat uniform. I'm not sure. Um, so yeah, I'm going to give it another five. We'll give it another 15 minutes, guys, and we'll see how things go. Yes, uniform. What type of uniform? Are you talking about dress uniform, or are you talking about combat uniform, camouflage uniform? Because if you're talking about dress uniforms, I don't know actually what's my favorite dress uniform. Um, Dress uniform. I like the Marines dress uniform. The American Marines dress uniform is nice. Um, I haven't seen many of their new pinks and the new pinks and greens that they brought out. Um, their uniform is nice. The Finns, the Norwegians, and the Swedes, their dress uniforms are quite nice. And if you're talking in relation to camouflage uniforms, I like the Spanish uh, new TPM, or it's not TPM. It's like a multicam. That's actually quite nice. The Swedes pattern 90 is nice. Flecktarn is nice. And the Norwegians camouflage is nice. So, I like that one. Um, the Irish camouflage is nice. So yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Dropped a mag and lost it in the Falklands in 1994 in an exercise. Sergeant picked it up behind me. Loved those smocks with wire hoods, but they ripped easily. They do rip easily. That was a upgrade that they made in the soldier 95 variant, whereas it became known as the tea bag material, the ripstop, to try and stop them ripping. But those windproofs were very, very popular in the Falklands and in the north of Ireland. You do see an awful lot of lads on off banner wearing them and things like that. Yeah, so there you go. Oh, somebody else has been deleted. I didn't see that message. So, operator, hello, how are you? Yeah, I'm trying to think. What other problems was there? Ireland had 3 Churchill tanks delivered in 1948, which were rented from the British until 1954. Then they were bought outright. They were in service until 1967. I know one of them is in the Cavalry Museum. The armoured car, which is called Slieve na Mon, that was in the Michael Collins ambush where he was killed. That's in the cavalry. That's an old in the Cavalry Museum. That's an old Rolls Royce armoured car. They have De Valera's car that he got from America, which was the first armoured car, civilian armoured car, to come to Ireland, is actually in the Clare Museum, if any of you want to go see that. So there are some interesting stuff around the place. Great. Thanks for asking. Yeah, you're more than welcome to call in and say hello. Um, what is your cut-off year of collecting? Mine was probably early 90s. Probably the Soldier 95 turn off or turnaround in relation to Northern Ireland stuff would be my cut-off. I don't really collect anything after that issue, which can be a bit of a problem because you sort of run into the Gulf War as well, but I don't have any Gulf War stuff. So it'd be the Soldier 95 stuff. A Humber Pig isn't working anymore. My Humber Pig isn't working anymore. If you have a Humber Pig, fair play to you. there, I suppose, I think, did they have a Saracen? I can remember seeing there was a Saracen. The Irish got a Saracen. It could be in that National Military Museum that I'm thinking of. That I seen a Saracen and a Snatch Land Rover from the north. That is a private museum, so I'd nearly say that that's where they are. But I do remember seeing them in an Irish collection somewhere, and I remember seeing a ferret because the ferrets were used as well in that banner during the 60s and 70s. Um, so yeah, so there you go. Another bit of interesting history. Um, I drove a Saracen through a garden last night. How the hell did you manage to do that? Oh, I drove a Saracen through your garden last night. Yeah, that's a Republican song, actually. Um, there's a few of them. They're very funny songs. Right, guys. So that's tonight's live stream. We've done an hour and 41 minutes. Um, so if any of you are if any of you think of any questions, or if any of you have any ideas in relation to videos or what you'd like to see coming up in the future, don't be afraid to bang me an email and send it off to me. As I said, when this video gets edited and it comes up in the live stream tomorrow, or comes up in the Yoki Me Bobby tomorrow, I put up the video description, and you're more than welcome to email me. The Irish also took delivery in 1959-1960 of 8 Commons used till 73, and 14 Scorpion tanks used from 1980 until 2017. The Irish military currently has no tanks firing armored cars. I know that. I knew that they were getting rid of the Scorpions, but I wasn't sure when they had them. I think they tried out a Moag actually with a 105 on the roof of it, and I don't know if that ever worked, if it ever materialized. But I do remember seeing somewhere that they were testing them. I used to wear a 58 belt in my webbing dress all the time, Podrick. I used to just wear a 58 belt in my working dress all the time. Okay. I know the 58 patterns were very popular for guys to wear as working dress belts. Thanks for the talk. Enjoyed it. No problem, guys. Good crack. Really enjoyed it. Will do. Well done, everyone. Fair play to you, lads. In my collection, I have a life jacket with a lamp and a whistle. Royal Engineers Boeing C8. Have you seen anything like them in the army? I don't actually remember if I've seen them. Military Collectibles there probably. He'd be able to tell you, or Andrew might be able to tell you. I don't know. I've never seen them. I do know that the Royal Engineers, for doing the bridges and stuff, had their own specific PP protective equipment. Cheers, Andrew. Might need to buy another one. Yeah, the 58 pattern belts were very popular for guys that buy them in surplus to wear as working dress belts. Talk next time, everyone. Yeah, very good. Yeah, see you later, lads. Have a good time. Have a good night. And as always, we will see next Friday, 8 o'clock for the live stream. And I will have the usual videos up on Sunday. I'm not telling you what's coming up on Sunday. You can have to tune in to see it. So have a good week.